Welcome and good afternoon. I'm Kevis Goodman, the chair of the Committee on Teaching. It's a pleasure to wish you to the 2009 Distinguished Teaching Award ceremony. The Distinguished Teaching Award is the highest honor that is granted on campus for teaching. And it was first awarded in 1959, which by my math suggests that today is its 50th anniversary, its golden anniversary. Up until now, 227 faculty, including some of the campus's most famous representatives, have received it. And today we celebrate 5 more. Before we move to the presentation of the awards, though, we have 2 greetings. And first, I'm happy to introduce Chancellor Bergeneau. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you, Kevis, and I'm delighted to be here today to welcome you to our annual celebration of distinguished teaching at Berkeley. As all of you know, Berkeley is a preeminent teaching and research university, and the integration and synergy of teaching and research are a hallmark of the educational experience here. The faculty we are honoring here this afternoon exemplify the inextricably entwined pursuits of teaching and research. We're making significant strides on a number of fronts to enhance and support the excellent teaching that takes place here, including highlighting the support of teaching as a more prominent part of our fundraising activities. Indeed, as I was mentioning to Andrew Stewart, we've so far already raised two of the Hewlett chairs, which are to recognize our primarily teaching, and we have a proposal from Christina Maslach to increase significantly that number so that we have a number of our chairs where outstanding teaching will be the primary qualification. We expect everybody to be an outstanding researcher, but we want to make sure that outstanding teaching gets its appropriate recognition from chairs as well. The 5 faculty members receiving awards this evening represent a wide range of experience at Berkeley. So 2, and you can figure out which they are, have been here for 30 years, and the others have been here for less than 10 years. We have talent that spans all ranks of faculty, from assistant professors to full professors. We have excellence in a wonderful cross-section of disciplines: law, chemistry, history of art, English, agricultural and resource economics, and international and area studies. These 5 faculty members represent the qualities we most want and admire in our faculty: a great depth of intellectual engagement, a joy in teaching and their students, and a sense of the world as a community. One of the core missions of the University of California is to contribute to the betterment of society. And that's exactly what these great teachers do. I congratulate the award recipients and offer my sincerest appreciation for their invaluable contributions to the university. So let's have a... And before I leave the podium, I have one very pleasant announcement to make. It's one of the nice things the Chancellor gets to do, which is that although Maximilian Auffhammer, one of our award recipients, is listed in your program as being an assistant professor, I'm very pleased to let you know that he has been granted tenure and promoted to associate professor. So congratulations, Matt. And I have to say, it's one of the very unique occasions, and this was before he knew this was going to happen, not getting tenure, but this ceremony today. He actually sent me a really nice note thanking me for granting him tenure. So thank you.
A belated thank you for granting me tenure. Please join me in welcoming the chair of the Berkeley Division of the Academic Senate, Mary Firestone.
Thank you, Kevis. As the teaching endeavor in many ways constitutes the heart of what we do here at Berkeley, many people feel that the Distinguished Teaching Award is not simply the highest award given on campus for teaching, but the highest award given on campus, period. And I am one of those people as well. So because of that, it is a real honor to have an opportunity to participate in a very small way in this ceremony. I would simply like to thank the Committee on Teaching, all of the members, but in particular Kevis Goodman, the chair, for the excellent work that they always do every year, but particularly for the work that they did this year. And I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate the recipients of the Distinguished Teaching Award and thank them for, in essence, contributing to the heart of Berkeley.
The Distinguished Teaching Award, am I audible? Yeah. The Distinguished Teaching Award is the highest award on campus, as you've heard, but it's also one of the most arduous processes. It involves a year-long selection process in 2 stages beginning in early October. Each of the over 60 departments on campus can nominate only 1 faculty member per year. And from this pool, the committee selects the finalists based on its reading of their files, which include, among other things, raw student evaluations themselves. On the basis of this, we choose the finalist, and during the 2nd stage, the committee visits, not as a committee, but randomly and singly, the class or classes of each finalist. We read further material, including their philosophies, letters of support from students, and many more, sometimes many more, raw student evaluations. This year, the members of the teaching committee were, beside myself, Stephen Goldsmith from English, Ulla Hald from Math, Claire Krampsch from German and Education, David Patterson from Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, Jill Stoner from Architecture, Stephen Welter from Environmental Science Policy and Management, Linda Williams from Film and Rhetoric, and our excellent student member, graduate student Miranda Ritterman from Public Health. Reading the files, both of those who were chosen and those who were not, we were tremendously impressed by the energy and devotion that goes into teaching on this campus. Cal is a research institution, but it's a research institution characterized by the fact that good teaching is nowhere dispensable. We had a hard choice this year, and while we're celebrating the winners tonight, I want to acknowledge and to salute those who were nominated but didn't win this year. They are all excellent teachers, and we're very lucky to have them. The committee is also grateful to the staff members, the faculty members, and the department chairs who helped to compile the very extensive dossiers, and if you've done it, you know what labor that is, in both stages of the process. All of our winners tonight are distinguished, but they are distinguished in distinctive ways. And in order to do justice to their very different tasks, methods, philosophies, we want to present you their teaching characters, as it were. And this we're going to do 2 ways. First, with a video prepared for the ceremony, and afterwards I'm going to introduce and describe each recipient before granting him the award. This afternoon's video was prepared for us by Dan Krause.
very first teaching experience was probably when I was in college. And I was teaching a summer program for 7th graders. And it was about the hardest thing I think I'd ever done in my life. The first week, I was literally sick.
Sheer unadulterated terror.
The process by which it came to be.
I knew the material, of course I knew the material, but my ability to actually stand there in front of a class and produce an expose of it was, let's say, deeply in question.
I actually do still feel that way quite frequently at the beginning of a class. We have this really elevated thing like Troy, and then when I first came, I assumed that being a professor, I needed to know everything rather than just the few things that we're reading for the class. So I bought the complete works of all of the authors that we were teaching in that class and vowed to have them read before school began in September, and of course I failed.
In the beginning, I was very intimidated. But that's a really, really crucial point. I started out with, stating a few of the basic assumptions that economists make, and I didn't even get 8 seconds into the lecture before about 12 hands went up into the air and started questioning basically all of the assumptions I had just stated.
I was actually surprised how hard it was to not just know the material going into it, but then to resynthesize the material and present it to people. It's a whole different level of doing it. Some of them knew a lot about one area, but almost nothing about another one, and your job is to homogenize that in the first few days so you have a common ground.
And you had this separation between the ground state and the excited state.
And then you can focus instead on the nuances, how you're going to convey certain kind of material by engaging the students, eliciting from them the appropriate comments and the appropriate discussion to make the class come alive.
Getting my mind around how you actually teach these graduate students, some of whom knew an awful lot and some of them didn't, from a wide variety of backgrounds, was, I think, the toughest, the highest hurdle I had to jump.
Now I just look at it as this wonderful environment to grow, and for me on a day-to-day basis to learn from the great teachers and researchers that are here and have made their mark on this great institution.
What are Berkeley students like? Well, they're about as diverse a bunch as you can possibly find in any university on the face of the globe. What sets off Berkeley students perhaps from others is an unwillingness to accept the simple prepackaged canned answer and a really piercing intelligence which makes me look and think again.
They're very creative, they're very hardworking, and they definitely have a no barriers kind of attitude.
Most people haven't seen that concept very much, that you have this excited state.
They're absolutely fearless about jumping into the biology and learning a lot of things that they're unfamiliar with. They sort of crave that type of challenge.
It's an opinionated group of people, but combined with this incredible passion for what they do, this makes for a very stimulating environment where this pushback actually results, I think, in a better interaction in the classroom and a better learning experience.
So I think that's interesting, especially given that we've talked about his opposition to the war in Mexico.
Berkeley students are intellectually adventurous. Their unself-consciousness about thinking out loud and wanting to do so and being excited about doing so. When I've talked to colleagues who taught at other schools, and I describe this, they're often envious.
What I like the most is just standing in front of the class, and I barely even use the chalkboard. And it's just an unmediated interaction between me and them.
My question, I guess, would be just helping me define better Congress's power to decide who they want to govern over and who they don't want to govern over.
That's interesting. I think the answer is yes. To me, it's very intimate, it's very personal, it's a conversation. Interesting, okay.
Discussion will just sort of break out. There'll be one question and then someone will pick up on it, and it's important when those moments come in a lecture class, regardless of how much information there is to transmit, if there's an outbreak of discussion, to get out of the way and let it happen.
This is so exciting. And once that excitement spills over, for some reason my voice starts skipping. I start doing a little happy dance in front of the students. And in the beginning, they think I've maybe lost my mind. You thought I was going to give you another crazy equation, but I'm not going to give you another crazy equation. Those are the best classes, where we have a dialogue going on, where the whole class sort of feels like they're in an interaction.
And the students are so engaged.
That feeling of being eager to get in on it.
And you hear the entire class go, "Oh," at the same time.
And you know that you've nailed it. The purpose of university education is not merely to inculcate facts, but also to inculcate modes of reasoning and questioning, but also, frankly, to allow the students to mature, both intellectually and personally.
I would like them to think of my classes as overtures, but also helps us to understand what an intense rumination on life a work of literature is. He interprets that to me so that it becomes a cherished thing rather than an intimidating thing.
You can't be afraid to go into new areas that are unfamiliar. You have to just charge right in.
And the interesting thing, though, is you can compare this to phenolphthalein.
There are facts and figures that you inevitably have to learn in science, but I do try to downplay that, but rather to teach them at least an appreciation for what's going on, in the natural world. I think that's a very important message scientists need to give to the community, not just the people who will then go themselves to become scientists.
I want them to think about their role within the larger society, being part of this very special group of people who are privileged to have this training, privileged to have this learning.
Yeah, I understand your point of view.
And thus, I think, have a responsibility to conduct themselves and to use that learning for the broader good.
That's the basic question.
To kindle in them a belief that the history of the human race is something that we should all be concerned about and that we should all have in mind, as it were, when taking decisions about the present or about the future. These guys are very, very good at what they do.
Because moments will come in their own lives where they'll be called to reflect upon the way they're going or the way their world is going. And that's what we bring to our experience of human. I'm hoping that my students will, as a result of that, be more eager and competent at understanding their own historical experience.
They're getting the bigger concept to really know what this all leads to and what the ultimate implications of all this seemingly complicated and intricate material they've worked through for weeks actually means in the end. And how much of it should you invest in assets like housing, bonds, stocks? These 4 years or 5 years for some students at Berkeley are such a radical transformation for most of them on a mental, psychological, and emotional level.
And in that phase, they're figuring out all kinds of decisions in their life. It's the period of their life where nobody is telling them what to do next, that they have to become self-motivated and figure out their career goals for themselves.
So to see them move from that raw terror to the moment when they discover all of the possibility, the intellectual possibility that the university represents for them, that's sort of a very gratifying experience.
There's this personal connection that goes beyond the experience at Berkeley and the sort of teacher-student relationship that is really, really precious and really valuable to me.
And so that's why I call them my kids, because I guess I feel like I'm raising them in some small way. My postdoctoral advisor, Jean Frichet, who's here at Berkeley, once said to me something that I'll never forget. It was actually my first day in his lab at Berkeley, and what he said was that our product here at the university is not publications or patents or royalties. It's the people. It's the people that we produce.
It's a tremendous gift and a tremendous opportunity to be able to stand in front of a group of young people and be able to, in some small way, shape their future.
Would our new distinguished teachers please come up and join me? Our first recipient today is Maximilian Auffhammer, technically assistant professor, but as of July 1st, associate professor, I think that's how it works, from the Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics, and also the Division of International and Area Studies. Hereafter, I will call them ARE and IAS in the interest of time. The poet Robert Frost once wrote that hell is a half-filled auditorium. If Frost is right, and hell is a half-filled auditorium, then Professor Auffhammer can rest easy. Not only is his tenure assured, but so is his afterlife. Our committee members, as I said separately, visited his large lecture on macroeconomic theory this spring. I myself went twice, and each time, and I think you could see it there, room 2040 of VLSB was completely full. And it's not that this class or its counterpart, IAS 106, which is microeconomic theory, it's not that these two classes were always best sellers, far from it. Department Chair Larry Karp, in his nominating letter, wrote the committee that before Professor Auffhammer took it over, the department considered IAS 106, microeconomic theory, and I'm quoting, a nearly impossible course to teach well and make popular. The students come from largely non-economics disciplines, and they're often initially openly hostile to formal mathematical methods and economic theory. Professor Auffhammer took the class over, developed a new curriculum with new lectures, new supplementary materials, and the enrollment of the class has grown exponentially. Student evaluations are exuberant, including more than the usual superlatives in the undergraduate lexicon, as I understand it. Notably, awesome, Max rocks, he's the man, and my fave. Many call the course the best class they have taken. He has also worked equivalent wonders at the graduate level, transforming the graduate course on econometrics into one of ARE's most successful and popular courses. Indeed, for his contribution to the ARE graduate program more generally, Professor Auffhammer was co-winner in 2007 of the Sarlo Award for Distinguished Graduate Mentor. He and a fellow colleague developed a year-long job placement preparation program, and that has been instrumental in their department's highly successful, highly enviable, I might add, job placement record. For someone here for a relatively short time, Professor Auffhammer has a remarkable number of doctoral students. One former PhD student now teaching at the Australian National University writes as follows, and I'm quoting again. Max's excellence as a teacher comes from a combination of natural talent, such as the ability to explain even extremely complicated material intuitively, and his dedication, such as his willingness to chase down the right answer to even the most tangential and esoteric question from a student and deliver it with mastery in the following lecture. Professor Auffhammer's research expertise is in the field of climate change and the economic impact of global warming. Given his ability to work great changes on the most resistant of problem cases, I wish I could charge him with stopping global warming. Unfortunately, that's not in my jurisdiction, and instead, on behalf of the Committee on Teaching, I will present him with the Distinguished Teaching Award. Thank you.
So thank you, Kevis. Receiving this award is truly humbling. I have the absolutely great privilege to teach at the world's greatest public university, which is a product of an all-public education, is something that's extremely important to me. If you would have told me at age 14 when I was here on a family trip from Germany that I would be teaching here one day, I would have questioned your judgment. If you would have told me that I would be standing here accepting an award for teaching, I would have called you worse names, probably. My mom, of course, would not have been surprised by any of this whatsoever. On a deeper level, I really want to thank the university for making teaching an important component of how faculty are being evaluated here. I know that the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in one of my colleges reads every single student evaluation for every single merit case. That is truly a lot of work and is exceptional. As a result, I think the quality of teaching, both by Senate and non-Senate faculty at this university, is truly impressive. I do, however, never forget that the single reason that I have a job here and I get to have my favorite job, I may add, is the students. The motivation, their intelligence, their knack for finding holes in arguments is truly inspiring. When I walk into the classroom and I look around me, I always feel like I may be seeing some of my sort of future versions of my colleagues here who've received their undergraduate degrees at Berkeley. We have the brightest, most critical thinkers of their generation in our classrooms, and I cannot state what a privilege and how thankful I am for that. I also want to thank my colleagues, both in international area studies and agricultural and resource economics. I'm going to use the acronyms as well in a second. When then Dean Leonard called me and offered me an experimental joint appointment in IAS and ARE, where my teaching would be mostly in IAS and my research obligations would be in ARE, I knew I had received the chance of a lifetime. I also knew I had received the challenge of a lifetime. What I did not know was the supportive environment that I was about to enter. Talking about IAS, both Dean Leonard and Dean Lee, together with their associate deans, chairs, and faculty, provided me with truly tremendous support and assistance in order to become a better teacher and ultimately make these two courses successful courses. Paul Ludden and Keith Gillis, as well as my faculty colleagues in ARE, made sure that my research was on track while I was developing these courses, and I thank them for that. I truly have wonderful colleagues in both departments. I want to single out one colleague here, which is Sophia Villas-Boas, who's not only currently watching that my son Noah here isn't panicking, but Sophia wrote the nomination for this award on her iPhone while on vacation in Tahoe. Sophia takes 5 days of vacation a year and dedicated one of them to writing this award on a tiny keyboard. You truly are an inspiration as a colleague. Also, when she got tenure, she sent the Chancellor an email thanking him, and that's where I got that idea. So I should not take credit. In closing, I've been extremely fortunate to have a super team of GSIs. Some of them are here, and I thank you for your assistance and your excellent teaching. Teaching a course of 160 students without GSIs would be next to impossible. Teaching a course of 160 students well without excellent GSIs is absolutely unthinkable. So I thank you for all the time you put into these courses. Finally, without my parents, my sister, and most of all my amazing wife and my superstar son Noah, who's wearing the flower necklace down here, and provided the screeching you've been hearing in the back, they're the ones that really made this all happen. So I thank you very much.
Our next award goes to Professor Mitchell Breitwieser from the Department of English. I know all too well that it's sometimes said of literature professors that they can become very specialized. Indeed, the field often requires it for publishing success. However, to the next person who says that, I'll refer him to the teaching range of Professor Breitwieser, whose courses have covered the following: 17th and 18th century American literature, 19th century American literature, 20th century American literature, 20th century British literature, with forays into 18th and 19th century British literature. He's taught everything from Shakespeare to contemporary Scottish fiction, suspense fiction, and science fiction. During his 30 years on the Berkeley campus, he has taught over 50 different courses with radically different material. As far as I can tell, though, he has not yet tackled the medieval period. His 4 books in print or forthcoming reflect that diversity, covering American literature from 17th century Cotton Mather to Graham Greene. And yet, as the English department's own teaching committee noted in their nominating letter on behalf of the department, his objective is not to wow students, but to empower them. As it turns out, he does both. His evaluations from 45B, a survey course that's probably one of the most difficult and, for many in the department, one of the most undesirable assignments, those evaluations are astonished by Professor Breitwieser's ability to speak for 50 minutes in perfect paragraphs with crystalline organization and absolutely no notes. One student comments that she ran up her cell phone minutes by calling her boyfriend afterward. Professor, must have been an iPhone. Professor Breitwieser has been particularly devoted to enfranchising students who feel or are easily made to feel that they do not belong at Cal, whether by working with them in the Summer Research Opportunity Program, in freshman seminars, or by his commitment to their talents, even when, or maybe especially when, they themselves do not believe it. Thus, a transfer student wrote, quote, "The manner in which Professor Breitwieser conducted his seminar almost single-handedly convinced me that I had an individual place in the campus community." Another from the City College of San Francisco reflected in these terms, quote, "I am not only a better student because of him, I am a better thinker." His influence extends to graduate students at all levels, and beyond that to established scholars around the country. Former PhD students, now distinguished professors elsewhere, sent the committee very richly detailed letters of support, and one in particular seemed to capture the unusual mixture of modesty and sheer talent reflected in the file. His lectures were, and I'm quoting, "electrifying." This writer wrote, quote, "But the brilliance of Mitch's persona is bound up in its seeming artlessness. There is no smoke and mirrors, no star persona, just a remarkably gifted teacher who makes you listen and care when he talks." Mitch, before I mispronounce your name yet again, on behalf of the Committee on Teaching, I'm proud to give you the Distinguished Teaching Award.
Thank you. I am honored by this award and by your presence at the ceremony today. When we were notified that we had been selected as finalists for the Distinguished Teaching Award, we were asked to write 1,000-word essays expressing our views concerning teaching. I felt cramped. How could anything worthy be expressed in such a short space? But when I had finished writing the rough draft, I hit the word count command and found that it was a mere 800 words long, so I put 20 or 30 words back in. Later, when we were notified that we had been chosen to receive the award, we were asked to cut our statements down to 450 words so that they would fit into the programs you have before you. Again, I bridled, but once again, conforming to the rule proved remarkably easy, and I confess I like this shortened version better. My incredible shrinking prose suggests either that I'm finally becoming succinct, a development which my colleagues, students, and family members would no doubt greet with cheers, or that I really don't, after all, have all that much to say about what makes for good teaching. I can say, however, that whatever success I've had in the classroom has been wrung from me by my students. With or without an award in my pocket, I have always found that the classroom experience on our campus is abundantly rewarding all on its own. You students are bold, avid, sincere, unpredictable, funny, and brilliant. Trying to respond to you in a way that repays your response to me has been daunting and thrilling, and it has brought forth whatever there is of the best in me. I have been blessed by your great gift. Thank you. Thank you, too, to my English department colleagues who nominated me for this award. I have the impression that there was quite a lot of work involved, and I have been touched by your affection and enthusiasm. And finally, thanks to my wife, Jennifer, and my daughter, Audrey, for ongoing inspiration, love, and patience. You have helped me with my work more than you will ever know. Sharing life with the two of you and having the chance to see you becoming the person you are, Audrey, have been foremost among the Lord's exquisite gifts to me. I am reminded of a verse from the 16th Psalm, "My boundary lines have fallen in fine places." Thank you.
Clearly, I'm shorter than everybody. At any rate, our third recipient this afternoon is Matthew Francis, Associate Professor of Chemistry, whose expertise is in chemical biology. In fact, on the Berkeley campus, he has been the force behind the highly successful new chemical biology major in the College of Chemistry, both in terms of his curricular innovations and in terms of his commitment, as the nominating letter put it, to, and I'm quoting, the task of redefining the way chemistry will be taught in the next century. It's a large task. And to give you some sense not only of Professor Francis's importance to chemical biology, but also chemical biology's importance to the College of Chemistry, you should know that since this major was founded in 2006, enrollment in the Department of Chemistry has doubled. A collage of praise from the hundreds of evaluations from Professor Francis's file would have to include "radiates brilliance," I'm quoting, "has opened up my eyes," awesome, and "best, best, best." A current senior writes, "A faculty like Professor Francis has made my college experience at Berkeley filled with pride." As the committee found out when we visited his chemical biology lectures this semester, and they were at 8 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, a fact that did not thrill some members of the committee but seemed not to have fazed Professor Francis, we found that it is crucial for him to bring to the fore the applications of each reaction that he teaches for drug research, for example, one of his several specialties, as well as the lives of those who have discovered them and other pioneering methods. In other words, he cares both about the gestation and the afterlives of each experiment. This includes PowerPoint slides that juxtapose the structure of each synthesis or dynamics of each reaction with pictures of the scientists or the details of their career growth. Such a process of what he calls humanization clearly works. Witness the following account from a student. "It has a wonderful effect of turning science into a conversation," this student wrote. "It is often difficult for the human brain to remember the details of a particularly complex scientific equation, but it's relatively easy for anyone to remember that their discoverer has the equation carved on his tombstone." His many graduate students occupy both laboratory and teaching positions. One writes us from Brookhaven National Laboratory that Professor Francis, quote, "extends his brilliance without arrogance." And that same letter goes on to say that he also teaches, quote unquote, the intangibles. "Of the innumerable things he taught me, perhaps the most important was that the product of graduate school is the scientist, not the science," this letter concluded. This scientist has already won numerous awards, both for research and teaching, including a National Science Foundation Career Award, the College of Chemistry Noyce Prize for excellence in undergraduate teaching, and 2 departmental awards. Today, he receives one more. Thank you. I'm delighted to present, really proud to present.
Thank you very much. Thanks. We were discussing earlier how difficult it is after all of these videos to come up with truly something new and original to say after all the different ways we've said it. But it really means a lot to me to see all of you here, especially people from my lab and people from my classes and my department. It's really a thrill and a humbling honor to be here to receive this today. If there's one thing that I would give young people as advice, it's very important to absolutely love and be passionate about what you do. And I think all of us would say that we feel truly blessed that we have such a career where we really can pour the passion into it. And teaching is certainly one of the ways that we do that, one of the more creative ways that we try to do that. So when I took this position, I was very confident that I would be happy with teaching. I'd be excited about it. And one of the things that really took me by surprise is how much I've enjoyed the interactions outside of the classroom, especially in the laboratory, in group meetings, in office hours, advising sessions. I've really enjoyed being a part of the decision-making process that we talked about in the video, about all of these different things that people are trying to work out in their life. And so that's been a truly meaningful thing for me. There certainly are a lot of people to thank on the list, and certainly the first among them is the GSIs that I've worked with over the years. Several of them are actually sitting in the back there. As you know, the GSIs are absolutely critical in terms of delivering the message to the students, in terms of enriching their experience and really filling in for us when we drop the ball or have last-minute problems getting our lecture together. So I really, truly appreciate working with all of you that came today. I also have a great set of colleagues in the department who've been fantastically supportive over the years. One of them is my chair, Michael Marletta. Michael is also a fellow chemical biologist and has endured countless calls at 7 o'clock in the morning about biochemistry things that I didn't understand, and he still picks up the phone, so I thank you for that. I also thank Phil Geisler, my colleague, who shares a lot of enthusiasm about teaching, and he is the one I call for all of the physical chemistry things that I don't understand early in the morning. And then finally, Carolyn Bertozzi, also for her enthusiasm in the classroom, which is infectious, and it's something that I've learned a lot from over the years, and Bob Bergman for his professionalism and commitment to the material. All of them have been great mentors in terms of teaching, and I've really, really learned a lot from them. Finally, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, as those of you who teach know, and certainly there are all kinds of last-second obsessive fact-finding sessions or mood swings in terms of an ill-prepared lecture that you're trying to get together. And so Catherine Yu, my fiancée, has endured all of those things over the last number of years, and I really want to thank her for her patience and putting up with me through all of this. So thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Our next recipient is Goodwin Liu, Professor of Law and Associate Dean at Boalt Hall, and co-director of the Chief Justice Earl Warren Institute on Race and Ethnicity. Professor Liu is an expert on constitutional law, civil rights, and education law and policy. In his nominating letter, way back last October, Dean Christopher Edley of Boalt Hall explained that Professor Liu, quote, communicates complex legal concepts to students and encourages their serious analysis of often emotionally charged constitutional issues without imposing his views on them. And indeed, it was that calm judiciousness combined with incredibly searching brilliance that struck committee members visiting his class. As Professor Liu explains it in his teaching philosophy, he strives to show his students, quote, that no view, however orthodox or politically correct, is immune from careful analysis and scrutiny. I want, he continues, my students to see that the law, though often indeterminate on difficult questions, nonetheless has a kind of integrity that makes it worthy of our respect. The evaluations from his large lecture on constitutional law for first-year law students, they're thick with awe and respect, and something more, perhaps best captured by this one. I came to class every day to have my mind stimulated. I forgot about exams. I just wanted to learn. Such is not, in my experience, a typical law student comment, but remarks such as that did, in fact, characterize Professor Liu's teaching evaluations. Among the supporting letters that the committee received and read in stage 2 of the competition was one very long one, co-signed by 50 current JD students, class of 2009 or class of 2010, which started as follows. The special moments in a law student's life are when she is struck with the sudden realization, this is why I came to law school. Under normal circumstances, these moments are rare. Yet this feeling, a mix of inspiration, comprehension, and passion, swept us nearly every day in Professor Goodwin Liu's constitutional law class. This is why we came to law school. The letter went on for 3 pages, each paragraph elaborating his handling of a different issue and concluding, this is why we came to law school. Professor Liu's file made clear to us that his commitment to his students' professional lives extends well beyond the classroom and into their careers. He counsels them on law review publications, coaches them for job interviews, and advises and assists them in obtaining clerkships. His graduate students detail his long support over the course of their career, yet it seems to be this classroom electricity, as they call it, that floods their memories the most. And so I'll end with one recollection reported by one of the letter writers about her friend who was a fellow Bolt Hole graduate. On the last day of class, he gave a speech I will always remember, said the friend. He said that the Constitution belongs to us, each of us. The letter writer goes on, she continued to say that this moved her so much that she began to cry, at which point her friends made fun of her. However, she added, but I didn't care. The Constitution belonged to me. It is a pleasure and a privilege on behalf of the Committee on Teaching to present Professor Goodwin Liu with the 2009 Distinguished Teaching Award.
Thank you, Kivas. Well, that introduction literally brought my daughter to tears. I'm very honored to be in the company of the other award recipients, Max, Mitch, Matt, and Andrew, as well as the many past recipients who are here today. I'm indebted to many people, to my dean, Chris Edley, who has made it possible to do everything I've wanted to do at Bolt, to my colleague, Jesse Choper, who's here today, a past recipient of this award and an incredible mentor to me over the many years that we've discussed and had conversations about constitutional law. To Steve Sugarman, who's also here today, who likewise has been an important mentor to me in my time at Bolt on all fronts. I think between Jesse and Steve, those are the 2 people in addition to my wife who I can safely say have read everything in my file. To Susan Whitman and Leonore Clelo, who made the effort to nominate me for this award and put together all the information, and to the many busy people who wrote letters, including my fabulous students, Greta Hansen, Melanie Kay, Valerie Blair, Vina Ha, Mark Peloton, Aaron Pulaski, Keith Hyatt, Nicole Rees, Sarah Ruby, and Benita Brombat. I'd also like to thank my wife, who's there with my daughter. In addition to the parenting duties, she has endured many of the midnight class preps and the mood swings that Matt referred to. She's watched me teach to help me improve, and most importantly, she makes sure I look presentable every day. Some days are kind of iffy. And I also want to recognize my parents who are here. They drove down from Sacramento to be here. And finally, my 2-year-old daughter, Violet, is here, which is significant because, if you want to know a secret, half the reason I get high marks on my teaching is that I occasionally show her baby pictures to my class. I want to say just 2 things. First, to my students, nothing is more meaningful about this award than what it says about all of you. One of the reasons I came to Bolt was the students. There are law schools where the students have a reputation for being competitive or uncooperative or cutthroat, but never, ever have I heard those words used to describe the students at Bolt Hall. Instead, you are generous, you are gracious, you are genuinely interested in building a community. And I can't tell you what a difference that makes to the efficacy and enjoyment of teaching and learning. I'm a firm believer that much of the learning that happens in a law school does not happen in the classroom. It happens in the hallway conversations right after class. It happens at lunchtime and during the passing periods. It happens in your study groups and your late night cram sessions. So the only thing I enjoy more than teaching you is to watch you teach yourselves. Bolt students are also unusually generous, not only to each other, but also to the faculty. Our teaching evaluations ask students to provide written comments and then to rate each course on a 7-point scale, with 7 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Well, to illustrate why I say that Bolt students are unusually generous, let me read you some comments from a recent course, with each one followed by the student's 7-point rating. First one, quote, "Not clear what we're supposed to take away from the course, 7. Next one, instructor has type A personality, 7. Class was too theoretical and professor tended to hide the ball, 6. Textbook is worthless, 6. Class discussions were dismal, 6. No clue how to prepare for the exam, 7. You see what I mean? That's why it is such a pleasure to teach at Bolt Hall. The other thing I want to say is this. The university says on its website that, quote, "The Distinguished Teaching Award is intended to encourage and recognize individual excellence in teaching." Well, I'm happy to be recognized for individual excellence, but I truly believe that in our line of work, excellence is not simply a quality that inheres in individuals. It is an aspect of institutional culture. It is something shared by the members of a community. And so, like good scholarship, it is hard to know what good teaching is without seeing it done by other people or without being in a place that really values it. I'm lucky, I feel very lucky, to serve on a faculty with a lot of excellent teachers, and that's an important reason for whatever success I've had. So this award recognizes individual excellence, but it also recognizes a culture of excellence. And I'm very proud to be part of the law school and this university, and I accept this award with great admiration for my students and colleagues and for the culture of excellence we create together. Thank you.
Well, you see the virtues of selective quotation. The final award for this year goes to Professor Andrew Stewart, who holds a joint appointment in the History of Art and Classics departments and is the Nicholas C. Petrus Chair in Greek Studies. He is also co-curator of Greek and Roman Antiquities at the Phoebe Hearst Museum of Anthropology and a member of the graduate group in Ancient History and Mediterranean Archaeology. All that is during the school year. During the summers, he has run the United States end of the largest archaeological excavation in Tel Dor, Israel, where he has trained a generation of archaeologists and has conducted a field school. In case you think that these half dozen or so positions detract from his research publication, no, he is the author of 7 books, and I stopped counting the articles and reviews after 50. Our committee was equally, if not more, impressed by the superlative comments and scores that Professor Stewart receives in undergraduate evaluations, all the more so because it was clear that he receives them without the slightest relaxation or reduction of his strenuous requirements and high expectations. It was not uncommon to find best course and hardest course on the same evaluation. We admired the carefully crafted yet effortlessly performed lectures. One writer said, Professor Stewart is a brilliant lecturer. The images he chooses as well as the contextual information he has blended so well that the overall experience of the lecture is pleasurable on all fronts. I have never had an instructor like Professor Stewart. Another former student added, he wields an ancient Greek spear. I don't know if it was in the video. He wields an ancient Greek spear, which he uses for everything from pointing out slide details, really a PowerPointer, I guess, to enacting Alexander the Great's famous cavalry charge. Professor Stewart's former graduate students are legion, and they occupy prestigious positions at top universities around the world. Supporting letters that we received were surprised in some cases that he had not already won the Distinguished Teaching Award. And in all cases, they were very eloquent but very simple. Writes one former doctoral student, teaching for him is not a pretension, a burden, or a distraction. It's a way of life. Another, he is an instructor, a mentor, a counselor, a cheerleader, and a wayfinder. A third, intoxicating but not intimidating. We were worried that he wouldn't make it this afternoon, as he was yesterday giving an endowed lecture. As of this morning, he was in Ohio, and he just flew into San Francisco Airport. We're delighted his flight was on time, even if we're sorry we didn't bring his spear with him. On behalf of the Committee on Teaching, I'm proud to present Andrew Stewart with the 2009 Distinguished Teaching Award.
Thank you, Kevis, and thank you all very much. I'm both delighted and honored to receive this award. You have no idea how much it means to me. If you told me 30 years ago when I joined the Berkeley faculty that I'd be recognized in this way, I'd have been pretty surprised, because actually I found the move quite tough. I was shifting not only from conservative New Zealand to the People's Republic of Berkeley, but from classics to art history, from a British-type system to a Californian one, and from Kiwi students to Americans. Worst of all, much worst of all, most of my topical jokes and one-liners had suddenly become obsolete. And then, in my first quarter here, came the twin traumas of Jonestown and the murders of Mayor Moscone and Harvey Milk. A stranger in a very strange land, I had to start over from scratch, and I'm grateful to everyone, students, faculty, and family, who allowed me the time and space to do so. Moreover, to pillage a thought from Plutarch, sometimes I think that fortune rather than virtue is responsible for me being here. I got this job because of a series of happy coincidences: a retirement, a lucky heads up from an editor, a chance encounter with a mailman in the depths of the New Zealand Christmas vacation, and a search committee's risky gamble. Furthermore, though I now teach in history of art, the only art history classes I've ever attended are my own. I'm trained in classics and classical archaeology. I'm also a college dropout from Moron Typing 101, Vista College class of 1986. Remember Vista College? It's now Berkeley City College. And I'm a Don Quixote who crazily agreed to take over a team of 50 diggers in Israel after just 2 seasons of field experience, one of them on a Maori fish midden in southern New Zealand. But others too must shoulder some of the responsibility. I wouldn't be standing here without the backing of a great many people. Svetlana Alpers, also a recipient of this reward, who led that search committee and made that gamble. Lauren Partridge, who was then chair of History of Art. Plus ça change, he still is. He backed me all the way. My partner, Dallas Wood, my son Colin, and my daughter Caroline, who've stuck by me through thick and thin. My students, especially my students, undergraduates and graduates alike, who kept me on a roll all these years and who rashly proposed me for this award. Pat Berger and Ray McCallum in History of Art, who assembled the mountain of paperwork that it required. And finally, my GSR and GSI this particular semester, Erin Babnik, who together with Lynn Cunningham and Jan Eklund and the department's visual resources staff helped me pull off the Herculean task of converting my lectures from slides to PowerPoint. In this business, the greatest reward one can have is the respect of one's students and colleagues. My students nominated me for this award, and my colleagues selected me for it. A teacher can ask for no better gift than this. Thank you all.
This is, as I said, the 50th anniversary of the Distinguished Teaching Awards. In wishing it happy anniversary, I and the whole committee also want to wish it a golden and healthy future, even in and especially in these hard times of budget cuts. We also want to thank a number of people who have made this ceremony possible. Dan Kraus, who produced the video, in the Office of Educational Development, Brian Mayberry and Kim Steinbacher, who are tried and true friends to this award and every committee, and Robert Schlick, who joined that office this year. We are also grateful to the staff of Zellerbach and the California Alumni Association, which has historically been a tremendously supportive of this award and teaching more generally on the Berkeley campus. But above all, not only the committee and I, but all recipients of the award, past and present, owe all of us a special tribute to Steve Tollefson, former DTA, and the director of the Office of Educational Development. Steve is a gem on the Berkeley campus and can never be sufficiently acknowledged. So thank you, Steve. Many thanks to all of the distinguished visitors and the distinguished guests and the audience. Before proceeding to the reception, which is in the foyer of Zellerbach, please join me in applauding the 5 2009 winners of this award. There is a reception outside, so we will adjourn there.